Alright guys, so we just got the HCS settings confirmed to us. It was a 15-minute breakdown. In this video, I'm going to be going through and telling you what that means for the competitive scene, and also should you be excited for competitive Halo esports again.
We are getting older, we're not who we used to be.
You can find all of the information in this video, what I talk about and what I cover on the Halo website. The link's in the description. You can watch the video. I'll have clips throughout here kind of referring to what I'm talking about. The video is also in the description, so if you want to see everything without me talking over it, click on those links and get stuck into it. They come off so strong in the first like 30 seconds of the video.
We really wanted to make sure that this the competitive settings felt like competitive Halo, felt like home. Battle rifle starts only, no secondary weapon, no motion tracker, and no grenade hit ticks. So those are the baseline settings across the game.
We actually get probably the top 4 or 5 things that competitive players really wanted for Halo Infinite esports. But what do those things actually mean? So BR starts, in the video they kind of talk about the fact that we need to have a utility weapon.
We've got the BR utility weapon that so many players will be excited to see.
And so in Halo 5, that was the Magnum. In Halo 3, that was the BR. In Halo 4, that was a mess.
Snapshot.
In Halo Reach, that was meant to be the DMR.
Double kill. Triple kill. Overkill. Extermination.
So each game kind of has their own utility weapon that is like you're straight off the spawn. What are you using to kind of fight for power, for map control, for, you know, the different pieces of equipment or power-ups that are on the map. And in Halo Infinite, it's confirmed that that is going to be the BR. In the flights, we got to see how the BR functioned, and out of all of the weapons, it was probably the most consistent, and it definitely felt the best as a utility weapon. It's something that you could be used at close range, it's something that could be used at medium to long ranges as well. And so without even there being any tweaks between the flights that we played and the game releasing, the BR definitely looked like the best possible utility weapon that they could have. So that's a fantastic thing to hear. No Nade Hit Markers. So they talked about this in a few instances. Their ability to recognize that gathering information in competitive Halo is something that should be rewarded for the effort that you put into gathering that information. So if you just decide to chuck a nade somewhere on the map to see if someone's there and you get a hit marker and it tells you someone's there, that takes a really a big amount of skill out of the game, you know, whereas if you're using proper callouts, if you're understanding how the map rotates, if you know what the other players are doing just from your game awareness, then that increases that kind of skill gap for other players. So having no hit markers in there is something that makes players work a little bit harder. There's a part of the game where Sal picks up invis and he's down in the bottom of the map, and it's a really good I guess way to explain the grenade hit markers.
Sure, here's another camo pickup. Sal, you guys have really been on top of that camo and activated immediately, and probably the most interesting thing to talk about there, right, is the lack of grenade hit markers that player would have had.
And he puts invis on straight away, which is a great option because it's burning it, but he's also trying to stay alive to buy his team a little bit more time. If you have grenade hit markers turned on and a player throws a grenade into that corner of the map trying to keep him pinned there, if he gets the hit markers, he knows for sure that he's caused damage. Without getting that, it means that he has to actually make the push, throw another nade. He's got to do something else to actually confirm that that player who's picked up the invis is either defeated, completely put down, or is pinned there and has taken sufficient amount of damage so that he can be finished off by that player or one of his teammates. So no motion sensor, no radar. And personally, I think that this is something that's awesome for them to bring back into competitive. It makes a lot of the elements of map awareness a lot more crucial. Again, there's an element that I'll play here.
Right here, I pair repulsor and sword to get some creative shortcuts here. And
right.
That guy had no idea. So that movement, that shortcut, mixed in with no motion tracker, This allows you to make crazy plays like that.
Using the repulsor and the sword combination to actually jump up from the right at the bottom of the map to the highest point on the map in an instant. With no radar on, you're listening for sound cues to see if that player's actually been able to do that. You know, instead of just guarding 2 entry points to that room, you're actually thinking about a 3rd and a 4th, because if they've got a grapple hook or if they've got the repulsor, they can actually now add those mechanics into the game. So I think that not having the motion sensor in the game is good. It creates more of a skill gap, and then hopefully it plays really well. In Halo 5 it was really difficult because of how fast-paced the movement mechanics were, and there was a lot of layers to the maps that had players just playing very campy, and it kind of promoted that. So when they added in an element of radar to Halo 5, it actually made the gameplay speed up a little bit. I don't think that's going to be the same thing for Halo Infinite. I think without having the radar in Halo Infinite, it actually allows people to take advantage of things like I was saying, the repulsor and the grapple hook. It actually adds another skill, which is making sure that your team has the repulsor and the grapple hook. So if that's something that you can time, and if you can keep control of those elements of the map, then you don't have to think about it, and it's going to be easier for you to control sections, because you know, okay, our team has got the repulsor and we've got the grapple hook. There's no way that someone is going to be grapple hooking up from the bottom of the map in through this door. I don't have as much of a priority on focusing on that element of the map. So again, that's just another really great example of how the feature that they've input into the competitive settings is about increasing that skill gap and making it harder for players to kind of learn what they need to do. So all in all, I think those are like kind of the major points that we get straight off the bat at the beginning of the video, and it's awesome to hear. Okay, the next thing that we find out a little bit more about is the game modes that are going to be coming back to the Championship Series. And so we've got
Slayer, Capture the Flag, Oddball,
and
Strongholds.
Things like Stronghold, for example, haven't been like a big favorite for pro players because it can be a little bit slow paced, and it kind of just is really dictated by the slays that a team picks up. So if you're thinking about Strongholds from a pro player's perspective, if you slay out really well, it's easy to capture and have control over the objectives. So it's like an extended version of Slayer and less of an objective type. Whereas if you think something like Oddball or Capture the Flag, you can to an extent throw your life at the objective more and come out with a win. Whereas Strongholds, you don't have that benefit. If your team is constantly dying, you can't just grab an objective and hold on to it. You need to be alive to defend those objectives. So Strongholds, it depends exactly how that's going to play. One of the things that they said in the video is that they've taken out drip time.
In Strongholds, when you own 2 zones, you begin scoring. And now if the enemy team captures any progress towards one of your zones, it stops your scoring run. So that way, you need to maintain absolute control over all of your captured zones to continue scoring.
Which means that if you've got 2 objectives and an enemy team starts capturing one of those objectives, you're not scoring while the other team is capturing. You'll need to have total control of 2 objectives with no challenging and no challenge time for that to start to kind of build up, which is a really good feature, because when you go back to games like Halo 3, things like King of the Hill, that was kind of a contested time, was like a really big feature to what allowed that to be such a competitive game mode. So I hope that drip time is something that'll again add a skill gap, where if you can just live and play your life and kind of take away from the enemy's team's ability to be racking up points. You know, if one player's alive on the map and they're milking a hill while their teammates are all dead and not being able to do anything else, that's still a really valuable way to play your life. Whereas at the moment, in Strongholds, if you say play in Halo 5, you can be trying to stay alive in that hill, but the other team is still scoring. And the second that you're taken out, then the hill's reset, and it makes it a little bit harder to kind of have those clutch moments of staying alive for your team and stopping the scoring and that type of thing. So I think that's ultimately for Strongholds a really good little change that they put in there. Oddball again, it really depends how Oddball can be played, because it's probably one of my favorite objective game modes. Again, it just comes down to how effectively the maps can work with the ball? Are there going to be too many pinch points? Are there going to be too many obvious places to control the map? Is there not going to be enough ways to break that setup? And is it going to be something that, you know, within the first few weeks, few months of the game, it gets really stale because you've just got teams that run a ball to a certain spot on the map and it's really hard to break that setup, especially if we're talking about not just like the competitive scene where you've got two good teams of 4 versus each other, and you've actually got, you know, online play, and maybe you've got, you know, you've got a ranked playlist, for example. Much harder it'd be to break those setups if you're a solo player. So Oddball, I think we need to see how it works. We're gonna have to see some more, I guess, of the maps that they're gonna play as well.
I didn't play it. He caught it.
You gotta jump off with that, man. Are you fucking kidding me?
And then capture the flag. That's a fan favorite. I think that seeing the maps that they're going to have capture the flag on effectively is going to be a really big factor that determines capture the flag success for Halo Infinite. In my opinion, this is, you know, personally what I believe. Capture the flag played best on really symmetrical maps where you have a team base on either side and a number of lanes that the gameplay can progress through. I think that is what makes capture the flag really special. And if we've got a map where it's not so symmetrical and trying to run the flag through, one side of the map is generally going to have a more efficient route or an element that makes it, you know, ideal to be on that. So unless they're putting in something like switching sides, I'd hate to see that though. I think just symmetrical maps for CTF is going to be the most important. And then Slayer, we all played a bunch of Slayer. It's the same thing. It's the first of 50 kills, and it's controlling. It's making sure that you're keeping your deaths to at least a trade, so that the score remains the same, and then eventually trying to get 2 kills to your 1 so you can start to gain that lead. I think obviously Slayer is a crux in what we need in competitive Halo. Yeah, the last thing is obviously the weapons. They're talking about scavenging for weapons a lot more than what we've seen in previous Halos, and I think that's really important. Having things like the commando on the map, the shock rifle, having a bunch of things that you can go around and you can pick up that actually again will help add to the way that a scenario could play out, I think is great. The balancing is just something that we need to fine tune, but the fact that we have something like the BR as a starting weapon or that utility weapon, I think is going to be really effective. So all in all, I think the weapon side of things and having that slot to scavenge, it adds for another element of a skill gap. You know, if you're a player who really understands that, you know, the way that they have controlled on the map, if you could have a full auto gun like, you know, the commando to just charge in, put out a whole bunch of damage and potentially get a really quick TTK and take over that part of the map, then if you can do that, you're adding to your skill, right? So if you've got your BR and the commando on, you're giving yourself more flexibility in the way that you can actually have your playstyle. So I think, again, really good addition to the skill gap. And so these are just kind of my final thoughts for HCS. I think that they've done an absolutely fantastic job on listening to the competitive scene and what they want. I think that there's still a few tweaks that they'll need to make just as the game kind of progresses. But we already have all the information, and the event is actually already sold out as far as a viewer standpoint for Rally in December from the 17th to the 19th. I know I'm going, my business partner for Divine Mind is Fred is going. We're going to have an Australian team there as well. So if you guys are going to be there, let me know in the comments. I'd love to make sure that I can see as many people as possible and kind of build a bit more of a community. But that is going to be 2 weeks after the game comes out. So that means that we've got 2 weeks of being able to practice the current competitive settings, get a feeling with you and your team and how the communication side of things works, and then what wonders of gameplay are we going to see 2 weeks after the game comes out at our first HCS LAN event. This is the type of stuff that makes it a really good time to be a Halo fan. And I don't know if you can tell from the way that we've talked about it today, but I am so excited to be a part of Halo going forward. And I hope you guys enjoyed this quite a little bit of a breakdown in my opinions of the Halo competitive scene going forward. If you did, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about the competitive scene. Are there some things that you're still annoyed about? Is sprint still something that's bothering you? Do you think there should be the grenade hit markers? Do you want the sidekick to be as a part of, competitive as a weapon? Do you think that needs to change? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you don't mind, send this video to a few friends. Obviously, we're trying to get more views on our YouTube channel, get more people seeing us so that the work that we do gets noticed more. And, if you do appreciate the content, the time I'm putting into making it, then just sharing it out there a little bit more really does help grow the channel, and watching the video all the way to the end. So again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.
Like, all this is just super, super great right now. It's a good time to be a Halo fan.